All right, looks like we're live. Awesome. Hey guys, welcome to my live here in the World Dog Online Conference, I guess, 2021. Hello. So excited to have each and every one of you here today with me. And if you don't know me, my name is Caitlin Bird. I am the owner and operator of Caitlin's Animal Training Services, as well as the lead trainer for the online training program, The Unstoppable Service Dog, where I help owner trainers train their own service dogs to help them live a more fulfilled life here in the US of A. So, today I wanted to provide you guys with a lot of value, kind of give you a little bit of an introduction to what I do and you know, kind of show you what it is that I do and stand for. Because I first definitely want to lead off because I know there's a lot of dog trainers here in this group. And I want to lead off by saying that, I am very strong in supporting force-free, fear-free dog training, and especially service dog training. Here in the US, it's not really that common unless you're like with a larger organization, like for maybe some guide dog organizations. And even then, there's still some corrections and things that are used in those types of organizations. So, one of the bigger problems that I've seen in my area in particular is there's a huge, I guess, influx of younger handlers, younger teams, service dog teams, choosing to use force, prong, choke, or shock collars in their training. So I am here today to show you guys and kind of start opening up some people's eyes into what's possible. What are the foundations that you need to have before jumping right into heel work with your dog to make sure that you're both successful? And it's going to be quite intensive. So if you are a behavior nerd, if you are a person who really loves systems, you are absolutely going to geek out over this presentation, because all I'm going to be doing is showing you video after video after video, mostly of my current puppy Reaver that I've been working with. I've been doing a lot of video of him lately, and I will show you another finished product of what the heel work looks like with one of my own clients here locally for the mobility and psychiatric service dog, Daisy, who is actually a hound mix. So let me take a sip of this. Okay, and please introduce yourself down in the comments below. I would love to not talk to my plain white office wall here this evening. I would love this to be more interactive. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat so that I can, have a conversation with you. Because I would love to connect with more trainers and more owners of dogs, whether you're in the UK or not. Okay. Hello, Sandy. Nice to see you here. Glad to see you in the chat. So, first things first, before I get into exactly what we're going over today, I want to tell you the outline. Okay, and I've got it all right here in my little sticky note. It's a little 7-step outline for foundations for heel work. And in order to do really good, really refined, high quality heel work force free, we've got to put a little upkeep and a little bit of foundation work before we just jump right into it. Can we kind of free shape it? Yeah, you can, but it can be harder for the first time owner trainer, which of course I'm teaching people how to train their own service dogs. So it's much easier for first time owners to break it down into many steps. And if you find something that's helpful and useful during this live, please let me know in the chat below what you think would be useful, why, and if it's filled in any of the gaps for your training plans if you're doing heel work with any of your dogs or your current clients. All right, so the very first thing I want to talk about is going to be opposition reflex. Okay, opposition reflex. What is an opposition reflex? So if you don't already know, right? I know there's a lot of professionals out here tonight. So if you don't already know, the oppositional reflex for a dog, everybody has one. Even people have an opposition reflex, right? So when you, especially, it's really obvious in young puppies who have never had a leash on them before. And behind me in this video is you can't see him yet, but my Reaver, my 7-month-old Australian Coolie, is actually behind there. But I believe he was 2 months old in this. No, 2.5 months old in the video. Anyways, so everybody has an opposition reflex, right? So you think of dog pulls on leash or dog hits end of leash, dog wants to pull onto leash, right? So if you have an opposing force trying to pull you in one direction, your automatic instinct is going to be pull the opposite direction, right? So if someone's standing around and you're shaking their hand and then you pull them towards you, their instant reaction is going to be like, I want to counterbalance myself, right? So that is the definition of an opposition reflex. It's very natural. A lot of animals have it, including us. Okay. Hi, Liz. Hi from the UK. River, medical or assistance dog in training. Rune, terrier, and Dinky delinquent, and myself, long-suffering butler to the dogs. Awesome. Sounds like that, the dog, you got a great life over there. The dogs are helping you out and you're helping the dogs out in one way or another, right? Awesome. So, opposition reflex. Very first thing we do is teach the dog to give in to the leash pressure that he added to the leash. All right, so this is step 1 for foundations. And I'll be reviewing these as we go. Okay, so let me shrink myself down a little bit. Shoop. There I am. And this is Reaver. Okay, this is some of the video that I use to help my own students and to teach them what to do. He's a very cute, very high energy, high drive, toy driven, excitable young Australian Coolie. But if you know the Coolie breed, you also know that they're really good at having an off switch. So I find myself very, very blessed to have such an amazing dog. Now, just to start it out, he's chewing on a water bottle. I'm sure you can hear that. And that is going to be my distraction that I'll be using. Okay. So while I'm setting this up, I want to set this up. Where is it? It's right about, it's in the beginning. Ah, here we go. Okay. All right. So when you're working with the opposition reflex, I like to give my dogs just enough room on the leash to sit, stand, lay down comfortably. Not enough to run around, not enough to go crazy, but I put my entire weight on the leash. Okay, so when I do this, if the dog moves too far away, they're going to be adding the leash pressure themselves. And when they get the second, absolute split second that they give into that leash pressure that they feel, I mark and I reinforce, right? Obviously, you want to charge your marker before jumping right into something like this, okay? So let's see what that looks like with Reaver. I believe this is about his second or third session. And then after this, we also immediately jump into a new game because he was just picking things up so rapid fire. So with this particular game, you want to reinforce for 3 things, right? If I'm throwing a distraction, lands out of sight, I want to reinforce for one of 3 different behaviors that occurs. Either if he pulls to the end of his leash to go investigate, I'm going to wait until he loosens that leash in any form or fashion in the smallest little bit of loosening, right? As soon as he does that, mark reinforce. That's the first behavior. Second behavior I want to be marking and reinforcing. Standing and staring, not moving forward. Mark and reinforce when you see that if you introduce this bottle or whatever distraction you're using, right? And third behavior you want to mark and reinforce if the dog has any form of eye contact with you, right? So here you can see my treat pouch is opposite. I'm using my opposite hand to feed him. Therefore, I'm not using this hand with the food. So I'm not confusing him to look up at my food hand. If he's looking up, I know he's looking up at me, not my food hand. Important to note there, okay? So what does he choose to do? What I should have done here was mark and reinforce for him sitting and staring. But instead, I waited too long. I failed my dog a little. right? He gets to the end, jumping around a little bit, getting a little frustrated. But he quickly stops and settles down because we've had a couple of these sessions before, right? So as we continue, he gets a little frustrated. You can see him chewing on his leash a little bit. I'm like, oops, sorry, got you a little frustrated. Let me redirect you if it's, you know, dire like this. So I redirected, he looks, I mark and reinforce. Okay? But keep in mind, those are the 3 main behaviors you're looking for.
Yeah, you're right. I never thought about it like that.
So right now, he's at the end of his leash. Removes pressure. That's an opportunity to mark and reinforce. Okay? So that's how you get started on the opposition reflex. All right? So that's foundation number 1, opposition reflex. You want to have somewhere between 2, 3, maybe 4 sessions, depending on how... Tighten. Sorry. Apparently he wants to go to bed. Let me cover him up real quick and then we'll be right back. What are you doing? There you go. That's what I thought. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Now that the bird is happy, everything's good. Absolutely, Sandy. Glad to see you here, though. All right. So 3, maybe 4 sessions of opposition reflex, depending on your client's skill level, depending on your skill level. And then you want to start doing more of the focus distraction work, like what we're kind of doing here with the water bottle. I'm putting my distractions up here. There's a water bottle up here you can see. And I'll be using also a purple carabiner, which I often use to hook my pup up to me with his leash. And that's really part 1. Okay, here you can see also another time for struggle. I was trying to help guide him. And you might have some events like that where you're going to have to just make it easier for them rather than just waiting it out, depending, you know, how badly your pup is struggling. Okay. And then as we're going on, here we go. I continue the game. We have a dropped bottle here. And then I eventually also get to this purple carabiner again. Now the purple carabiner is up there. Okay.
You did your boot camp, and he's trained on the shock collar. But did you see what just happened to the shoe?
So I'm starting to reinforce for a little bit of duration eye contact too. That's fine. And this is starting to proof around distractions. Okay, this is starting to get into a little bit of autofocus. One of my biggest pet peeves with owner trainers or trainers in general is that they're constantly nagging their dog. And during the free workshop that I host in my service dog prep group, I actually teach you guys how to stop nagging your dog and make a lot of these behaviors automatic through shaping and capturing and setting the dog up for success step by step. Because what I see and hear people say, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it to their dog, or focus, 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 because there's so many distractions around. You know, that's something that a service dog should be doing automatically. And it becomes much more natural, much less micromanaging on you or your dog's part. And these kind of games really, really help with that and building the bond. All right, so we started opposition reflex. We got a little bit into autofocus, and that's jumping ahead. We'll circle back around to this. But the second thing, right? First thing's opposition reflex. We just covered opposition reflex. The next thing is going to be your client skill or your skill with something called a pezzing or rapid fire treat delivery and station training. So let me pull up the pezzing video. Okay, so this is skill building on the human's part. Here I have in front of me a plastic cup. You can use any cup. and I'm going to be practicing with both my left and right hand. So when you have a service dog, right, and if you're coming across distractions, you're going to want to have to pez your dog rapidly as a skill with one hand. Okay? The way that you practice this is by standing in front of a cup, perhaps putting it in different positions, and filling your hand with kibble to start pezzing. So here I am, both my hands are filled with kibble. I show the camera, both are filled with kibble. And you're going to want to let it kind of hang loosely by your sides, right? Either loosely by your sides when you're starting to fill it out, like pull out the kibble and roll it to the tip of your fingers, or behind your back as a reserve, okay? So notice how I jiggled the hand a little bit. This was very important, right? So notice with my right hand, I show it, I jiggle it, make sure that there's a reservoir right by the tip of my hand. So if you're looking at my hand here, it's going to be shaking it down into this area. I find that when I use gravity to help shake that kibble down, it's really easy to start rolling that kibble out to the tip of my fingers. And you're going to want to be ambidextrous with this. You want to do it with both your right and your left hand. Okay? So this is going to be a skill that you'll, if you're not already proficient in it, this is the next step. Okay? So there we go. When you're starting out, you're going to want to do it slow. Okay? And I always like to return to resting position, which is behind my back, to kind of reset me and my own behavior. Now, as you practice, you can see I'm doing it much quicker. All right? That's proficiency. You want to do it until you're able to do it, deliver one kibble at a time, and you might have to shake your hand in order to start dropping it. But that's a skill that you're going to have to develop. And then I just do it with the opposite hand next. So I reset, I do one at a time, and then I start trying rapid fire. Okay? Okay. So this goes hand in hand with station training. Let me show you the station. And the stations, how you construct them in and of themselves, especially depending how big your dog is or how new your dog is to certain textures of surfaces, is also extremely important. So let's talk about what you need to have a successful station pad or elevated surface. I have a couple pictures. Bear with me as I dig through them a little bit. Okay, we have station training outdoors. I'll just grab my station pad. How's that? Here's the video that I want to show you guys. This is starting to get more advanced, where we're practicing this outdoors with Reaver. So I'm going to go grab his paw pad real quick. He's got a couple of them, but I'll show you how you can hand make your own too. So with the paw pad, we want some sort of elevated surface, right? Something significant where it's going to help prevent the dog from wanting to naturally sit. Now, of course, that's going to depend on what exercises you've done with your dog in the past. Obviously, with a brand new puppy, they're not going to know anything, and it's going to be easy to prevent them sitting with a very short paw pad. So this is a blue plastic water feeding dish I got from the dollar store. And surrounding it is our favorite vet wrap. And you can use whatever colors you want, right? Now, the reason why I covered the bowl in vet wrap is because this is a slip surface if my puppy were to stand on it. So I want to make sure I set my puppy up for success by covering it with a grippable surface that he's not going to slip and slide on. Because some pups are a little bit more nervous and shy about these kinds of things. Okay? So this is going to be your elevated surface. And we're going to start station training. And what station training does, it helps with a lot of different things. When we're starting our heel work. And what it really does quite a bit of is reinforce the idea of staying exactly in heel position for a prolonged period of time. All right. So you're going to see a little bit of what Reaver and I do to reinforce that heeling position. So I start, there's some lovely heeling games that I like to play that have to do with your car and being outside and keeping them nice and aligned and straight. But I walk him up to the paw pad. Nice. He comes up, I mark and I reinforce as he comes up. Okay? And you can also lure your puppy up as well. Just make sure that this whatever paw pad surface you're using is super stable, very grippy, and doesn't wobble, because then your dog's going to start being scared of this unstable, safe surface that they might not be so comfortable with that you introduce them to. So always make sure you know your dog and the dogs that you're working with. Now I'm just making regular reinforcements and highly reinforcing my puppy. I believe he was about 4.5 months at this video. There we go. When we were starting this. So when you start, right, you're going to want to just tap one leg out. If you're starting to do this, this is going to be kind of like an automatic stay, but you know, there's more. Yeah, there we go. There it is. There's the one step back center. There are more games that you play with this for, like auto leave it's and more for auto focuses and auto stays. But really, when you start using this paw pad, it really helps reinforce the idea of staying in the perfect heel position. Okay, so that's going to be step number 2. Step number 1, as a recap, opposition reflex. Step number 2, pezzing as a skill for you to learn as a trainer. And number 2A is being on that elevated surface as a station. Okay, number 3, we're actually going to start going into some more fun stuff, collar cues, or I'll also like to call instructed guidance. And collar cues, I feel, are the probably number 1 reason a lot of people struggle with heeling. I've got a couple of videos to show how to get that started and what that looks like. Again, Reaver's big, beautiful, dorky face. I love it. He's so cute. So I do work with people who have, you know, potentially some disabilities. Maybe they have dizzy spells, you know, maybe something about their disability makes training more difficult. So I adapt myself to my learner, right? Like all of us good dog trainers do with our own dogs. We adapt ourselves to our learners. So sometimes we have to use chairs. So as an adaptation here, to start collar cue training, it can be easier to focus on the dog when you're not standing, right? Sitting down can make teaching collar cues to your pup much easier. And when I'm doing a collar cue, remember in opposition reflex, step 1, dog added the pressure to the leash themselves. And now here, now that they know to give into leash pressure, we are now starting to add a little bit of steady leash pressure. And as soon as they start to give into that pressure, we mark and we reinforce. Okay? So as your dog is learning this, you will notice that the leash pressure you need to add becomes lighter and lighter and lighter until it's like air. And they're just doing it and following your hand around in whatever motion you're going. Okay? So when we're starting, I take off my puppy's collar, his normal standard collar. I put on his training collar. And no, we're not talking about those types of training collars. I do not use corrections with my pups or any of my dogs. But as you can see, we've started a little bit of the leash pressure work here. I add pressure, he moves a smallish smidgen of an inch, and I reinforce. Okay, again, you're looking for those really small, minute baby steps. Oh, hi Alexandria. Nice to see you here. Nice to see you. Okay. So, smallest little bit of pressure, reinforce, right? As you are doing this, you're going to be able to ask for more and more behavior. But again, start with the smallest bit of behavior.
Nice.
Pressure comes in, mark and reinforce.
Nice.
There was really, since he was doing well, I asked for more pressure. He whined a little bit, showed a little bit of frustration with that whining. So I was like, okay, mental note, make a note of that, and maybe go back a step to make sure that it's much easier so you don't have a dog that learns to be whiny when they're frustrated. Okay? So eventually what this turns into, I believe near the end, oh, here we go. I think we're doing some big stuff here. As we continue this, you can start seeing just how much my dog starts to move. This is what? About 30 seconds later.
Nice.
And now my dog is learning to move left and right.
Nice.
Eventually, the more advanced of the collar cues is forward and backwards. But I start with left or right to start with. First, just one direction. Once they're successful with that, then I start the other direction and then differentiate between going back and forth. Okay? So this is collar cues or instructed guidance. All right? And this is what's going to help that when your dog, maybe they get too far in front of you, they self-correct and they're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be there. And you don't have to say anything. It's really beautiful to see in action. And I think you guys would love that. So let me know. Don't let me keep talking to my office wall here, my plain white, boring office wall. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Give me some feedback. What do you think so far? Now, I know we haven't seen the finished result yet, but we're getting there. And I promise you, you guys are going to love it. Okay? So we did collar cues. All right, so as a recap, step 1, opposition reflex. Step 2, pezzing and station training. Teach that dog the position where you want them to be in. Teach that with duration. Step 3, collar cues. Teach your dog that if they do hit the end of the leash, they don't keep pulling forward, right? They get back into position on their own. Step number 4, now we're going back into autofocus. And autofocus is a lifesaver. It's an anti-nagger. It helps you prevent from having to constantly nag your dog. Focus, 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 focus. Okay? And gosh, there's a lot of good videos that it kind of builds on. Let's just start with this one. Okay, you guys have seen this video. Thank you, Liz. You're right, Alexandria, absolutely. Okay, so we're getting back into the advanced stuff. And I am working with dropping an item. And when I drop an item, When I introduce a distraction, any kind of distraction, it could be grass that I pull from outside. Maybe it has some wonderful dog urine on it, right? Maybe it's some sticks. Maybe it's leaves. Maybe it's tissue paper, because we all know how puppies really, really, really love tissue paper and chewing things up and chasing after things, right? You can teach a young puppy and proof against these kinds of distractions at a very, very early age, which I think is really the magic of when you go about doing and hiring the right dog trainer from before you even get your own pup. Because you can really set those foundations in super early, and life with your service dog is going to be that much easier when you get the stuff in early. Okay, so here we go again. Introduce a distraction. He looks at me, right? So as a refresher, you want to reinforce through 3 different behaviors. Number 1, if they happen to go and pull towards the distraction, you mark and reinforce when they remove pressure themselves. Number 2, you want to mark and reinforce that when you introduce a distraction, they only stand and they don't move forward towards that distraction. It's fine if they're looking at the distraction, no big deal. And number 3, if they happen to look up at you and give you eye contact, again, remember, our food's not on this side of our body, so they shouldn't be looking at the food. It's on the opposite side of our body, so we will know that they're looking at us, not the food. You mark and reinforce when they look at you. Only 3 behaviors you're reinforcing when you start introducing this. And naturally, by doing that, it'll automatically start to shape towards that eye contact. Okay? And if it's not, then you can just stop reinforcing for pulling on the leash or just staring, right? It'll eventually start coming up, so they're popping back up at you automatically. And we don't need to use anything for a verbal cue. All right? So we're going by. We do the water bottle a couple times. And then I move on to a new distraction, which is the purple carabiner. And that happens right about there. Okay, let's see that. First time added that distraction in. Taking longer to think about it. So good. He self-corrected himself right there. Right? He started to get up, thought about going towards it, but then sat back down. He's like, oh yeah, I know that that thing's new, but I learned previously what I should be doing, so I marked and reinforced. That was excellent decision making on his part. Okay. All right. So autofocus, we can also put this into other amazing situations. One of my favorite is at thresholds. Now I know a lot of trainers tend to skip thresholds. And a lot of owners, when they're training, tend to forget that doorways need to be trained around before you just jump right outside. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We are starting to train at our doorstep using the natural world as real distractions, so that when my neighbor walks by with their dog, that becomes a cue to look and focus on me. And then as we continue this, we can start to chain it. We can start to build duration on the eye contact. But right now, we're just starting to say, this is now a cue to focus, not to go stare, run at, bark at, whatever it is that, you know, a dog can learn over their lifetime. Okay, so unfortunately, you can't see what's going by, but you can tell when something goes by, because he's a young pup. It is going to grab his attention. Okay, so we always warm up before we open the door. We've already been working on this maybe about two minutes max. Good duration eye contact there by this little guy. That's what we're looking for. So let's fast forward a little bit. We all know that good training is boring training. Now, something catches his eye right around here. There was a noise that happened outdoors. You can definitely, this is actually a clickable moment here. If he's looking and staring, that's exactly what we're looking for to mark and reinforce. Because why? He's not standing up and walking towards the distraction. So this is a reinforceable moment. Just keep that in mind, because I know that might blow a lot of people's minds, because you don't want to think you want to reinforce your dog for looking at that distraction, right? Where in reality, that's the in-between step in our training plan to get to eye contact. Does that make sense? If that's blowing your mind, if you're a little weirded out by that, let me know in the comments below. Don't let me just talk to my plain white wall. So you can also choose to wait it out, see what they do. Oh, did you guys see that bug that came in? Let me rewind it a little bit so you can see that bug come in. And right there it hops in. He says, I want to go check that out. Instantly self-corrects himself, removes that leash pressure. I mark and I reinforce, because that's a real world distraction right there. Those bugs are real and you can't control those bugs. So he handled it beautifully. I'm going to mark and reinforce, do a higher rate of reinforcement, make it easier, loosen my leash up a little bit, come closer to him, and continue on our way, because now he's starting to be right back into a good duration eye contact. All right, do we have more distractions? Barely. Now, I believe there was this one that's coming up that I want to show you. There we go. That's the one. He does a pretty long stare to that one. I believe those were kids and a parent going by. So we all know how, a lot of dogs can find children more interesting and reinforcing than boring old adults. And again, very doable. Removes his own leash pressure. Such a good boy. And he's making the right choices, and we're going at his step. And the next step from here would just be going outside to the front porch and playing the eye contact game as people walk by. And I'm not going to reinforce if there's no distraction walking by. That's something very important to remember. If there's not a person coming by or a dog coming by that comes into the environment fairly suddenly, I'm not going to reinforce. Okay? Unless I just want to start building a natural general duration eye contact. All right. So that was step 4, autofocus. We are now using cues in the environment, naturally occurring cues in the environment, like people walking by, dogs coming by, perhaps it's a dog barking, to become a cue to look at you. No more nagging your dog. And number 5, I don't have video of the single step walk. I believe I was doing 3 steps at the time, but there's not much difference between a single step and 3 steps. So now we're starting to get into our heel work. Now that we've started this, now we're getting ready to start heel work. And this is the exciting part. Okay. Which one is it? I think it's this one. All right. So, good stuff. I'm really liking this one. This one's going to be great. You guys are going to love it. So, here we are. We are out in a parking lot. Fairly low distraction. His ears are starting to come up. I believe he's about 4.5, 5 months at this age. Raver's now currently just turned 7 months. Becoming a gorgeous dog. And when I am playing our heeling games, I have my leash in, the hand above my dog is glued to my thigh, treat bag's on the opposite side, and I take 1 step. As soon as I take a step, I also mark the same time I take a step. And that gets my dog's attention. He's like, oh, okay. Did you want that? Awesome. So as soon as I mark, my dog stops. I mark reinforce, wait for him to finish eating, take another step. As you build this up, you're going to start doing more steps at a time, making it more random. Once you start to get around 3 to 5 steps, you want to start randomizing it between 3 and 7 steps and just kind of inchworming it along up your timetable. of steps. Does that make sense? It's random. It's randomizing it, but it's pushing it to higher and higher steps of randomization at the same time. Okay. So I like to play a little game around my car. You're just like how we were doing with the station training game. We were building up that duration of staying in that perfect heel position. I am going to be on the side of the car, and this is kind of recreating the experience we had with the pad against, and you can have it against a desk, you can have it against a wall, but basically your dog's going to be standing on this elevated platform for a duration stay, a duration behavior, kind of sandwiched between you and a wall. So this is recreating that here. Okay, and what I do is I walk around the car in a circle, step by step. Sometimes I have to take a single step, especially when you're brand new and you're just starting, until we can go all around the car, one step at a time, and build it up in duration. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit more advanced. How do you get away from the car? That's probably going to be your next question. As you're going around playing, ring around the rosy with this car, how do you get to the next step, which is healing without the car, or healing without the wall, or the desk, or whatever it is you're sandwiched between? Okay, so easy. What I do is I come out, I make a circle, and I come back into the car. So we have a very, very short duration of when the dog's not out, not next to the car, and still in a good heel position, nice and straight by my side. Here, nice and straight by my side. And then we go back into the same position to make sure that he understands, hey, you can still be out away from the car for a little bit before, and still be in position and not immediately have to come out of your straight healing position. Okay. Now, as we progress, this is going to be a video I think you guys are going to really love. We start to come out from the car and then come back. And when he comes back, the walk back has no car next to him. And then we come back to the side. There's going to be the car next to him again. So let's just watch this so you can see what I mean. He does end up veering off a little bit. This was very beginning stages. And notice as I mark as I step, and he knows to stop immediately. I wait until he finishes chewing, and then we continue. And it doesn't matter if your dog is sitting or standing at this stage. If they want to sit, that's fine. He kind of came to me with the default sit behavior for everything, so. And then you can see we go right back to the car. And it helps straighten him up a little bit. Very good. And I wait for him to finish chewing, and we turn again. Mark and reinforce. And it's just some repetitions. Max, I would do this kind of training session for 3 minutes.
All right, we're good.
And I would do that 2 additional times. So for 3 times, 3 minutes each, out in a parking lot. And in between, I reset by going to the car and practicing our calm, automatic, settle behavior. Okay? Oh, wow, we got a lot of comments here. Liz says, took 18 months of consistency to achieve beautiful heel work with a super enthusiastic spaniel, but it's so worthwhile. She understands solidly the proximity she needs to be in and will self-correct if she ever overshoots, which makes me so do a happy dance. I was told I'll never achieve a competition heel work with a spaniel without aversives. Yeah, slow clap for you, Liz. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Okay. We have a good question here from Farmer. Would you reinforce without distraction at the door to start? Yeah, so I always do a warm-up. That's a great question. So same with our healing. Before I ever go out to heel, I warm up in the house to get my dog in the right mindset. And then we got to kind of do a quick run with opening the door, make sure he can do it, come out the door, come in, and then load up into the car. Just as a reminder to get him back into that mindset so that he's successful and he knows what to expect from where we're going. Okay, I always review. Very good questions. And if you guys are interested in learning more about service dog work, I do host a free online service dog workshop called the Unstoppable Service Dog. You can find that by requesting to join the group Service Dog Prep. Make sure you answer the questions because I don't let anybody in who don't answer all the questions for that group. Okay? The next workshop I will be hosting is actually in April. Okay? So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to search that group on Facebook. All right, so review. This is a 7-step process, as a reminder. Step number 1, opposition reflex. Step number 2, pezzing and stationing. Step number 3, collar cues. Step number 4, autofocus. Step number 5, single step walks, and then randomizing it up into longer walks. And step number 6, this is especially important if you're training a service dog, is walk over autofocuses. What is a walk over autofocus? It's probably one of the harder things that you can do when you're doing this training. So what that involves is having any item, leaves, grass, sticks, toys, food. Food's a hard one for a lot of dogs. And the dog has to walk over it without trying to get the item. That is hard for a lot of dogs. So why is that hard for a lot of dogs? Well, because it's just right there. They could almost get it, but they can't. Okay. So let's see. Auto leave it. Here we go. All right, so in this session that I have with Reaver, we're going through different types of food distractions. So we have melons, we have cheese, and we have hard salami. All of them are on their own plate, and we're switching them out as we go. I have a helper behind the scenes so that we can just kind of hash this out and go faster. You can also do this by yourself. You just have to put your dog in another room. They can't see you and smell what you're doing. And bring out the dishes or plates or whatever and put them preloaded out onto the floor. Okay, I've done it both ways, both with and without a helper. It's just it's not much of a setup of difference. Okay, so my helper is bringing in, hold up. Here we go. He's bringing in, this is the salami, right? As we're working up, we go from lower to higher value reinforcers for the auto leave it, the autofocus. So I mark and reinforce for when he gives me eye contact and ignores the food. Again, a very naturally occurring reinforcer behavior. He even starts to settle on his own. And, you know, I can't say there's very many dogs other than service dogs who would be able to do that around a lot of food items. Now, of course, first session, so he's definitely trying to sniff and figure out what's going on there. Now, as we move on, your next step after just practicing the food as distractions is going to be getting into a walking. So that walk is going to be challenging, and you might want to be a little bit further away than what I was here with Reaver. I ideally would have had this plate a little bit farther away just to make it easier for him. He struggles a little bit, but he still performs well. So he's looking, he wants it real bad, still focuses on me in a standing position and in a sitting position, and then we start to walk by. Now again, this is not walking over these items yet, this is just walking by next to them. Did you see that side eye he gave the fruit? Let's watch that again. Side eye right there. But was able to keep his head forward and continue. Okay, so I reinforced that. And totally fine to jackpot that as well. Okay, so that's how you get started with the walk over leave it. I don't think I have any video of the walk over leave it. I might, it just might be buried somewhere. But that's how you start. Okay, and that's how you can keep your dog in that heel position even if they're walking over crumbs of cheese. All right. And let's see, that was step number 6. So we're going to review again. Number 1, opposition reflex. Number 2, pezzing and stationing. Number 3, collar cues. Number 4, autofocus. Number 5, single step walk for your heeling. Start to vary it up and build up that duration. Step number 6, walk over autofocus. And step number 7, loose leash walking and socialization outings. Okay, so socialization outings I love. And it does play a huge role with service dog work. Now, the beauty of socialization outings is that it is loosely structured. It's not highly structured, right? Because what does a highly structured session look like? That looks like the healing session we just watched, right? This is what a structured training session looks like. This is when you are accounting for all the distractions. This is when you're accounting for the movement and the people and the sounds and the smells or the food on the ground that could potentially be there. Because I've walked out of the car before and in the parking lot there is this God knows what was on the ground for food that my dog had to jump out and ignore automatically without trying to investigate it. Right? So there are standards that I'm letting my dog know about, and I'm sticking to those standards for these structured outings. So what is a socialization outing? That's what we're looking at next. Love socialization outings because they are structured, but it's loose. There's some basic rules, and we're just kind of free shaping things. Okay, we're letting the dog explore, get used to the environment, see noises, and build trust in us that we are capable and trustworthy people to have in our dog's life. Okay, and for young puppies, this is huge. So let me dig that video up real quick. Here we go. Reaver again, freaking adorable. And then I will show you the video of Daisy, the hound dog, also doing this. It was actually earlier today. She's one of my current service dog clients. And here we are at, I believe, Home Depot. We're at Home Depot here in the US. All right. And this is going to be our socialization outing. So what does that look like? We're walking around. I'm reinforcing a loose leash walk. I don't care.
Reaver spotted birds.
He found birds. I don't care that he's not in a heel. I just want a nice loose leash walk. Can you pull to the end of the leash? Sure, but I'm just not going to reinforce by moving forward with you, right? So there's some basic rules. It's much looser. It's not as strict. You can look and observe the birds up in the rafters like he was doing. And if he gives me any eye contact, I will reinforce that. So again, this is reinforcing the training we've already done. But it's in a looser environment and it's more focused on, hey, what is this thing over here? Go smell that thing over there, right? You can go in and under things and explore a little bit as long as it's safe for you and acceptable to do so. Okay?
Some things that are appropriate. Obviously, can't be chewing on anything. That's why I brought my toy.
Yeah, can't be chewing on stuff. Young puppies like to chew. Brought a toy for redirection. So there is structure. There are some basic rules, but it's not highly structured like the previous session you saw.
This is our socialization outing. Oh, found bird poop.
Found bird poop. Lots of bird poop. Crawls in some darker spaces. And what I'm loving is coming up. There's going to be... Oh my God, he's so cute. I can't.
You're cute. You're a good boy.
You can see, oh, this was gold. Right here is gold. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I can turn the sound up a little bit. But you can hear a cart coming by. And you know, in Home Depot, if you ever go to any kind of home improvement store, you know they have those big, larger carts for, you know, pushing around wood or mulch or whatever heavy object you are buying. One of those came by. He has never seen one of those before. And we were in a more cornered off section in the plant section. It was lower foot traffic. I don't care where we ended up as long as it was lower foot traffic, and he could handle whatever it is that came by his way. Again, this is more about building trust and rapport with my dog with some general, you know, rules thrown around here and there, and with him being able to socialize and interact with the environment.
You're a good boy.
So you hear that? He sees it, he looks away, and he immediately looks back at me. Let's rewind that 10 seconds so we can see that again.
You're cute. You're a good boy.
Nice. Immediately looks back. So again, you can see the power
Weird.
and how strong and how well this behavior can generalize when this is what you live and breathe by.
It's pretty much gone, so we gotta pack it up and go home, don't we?
And of course, almost out of food, so we're gonna go. All right. So, as a total, we're looking at the healing process, but we're also looking at the loose leash walking part of it too, right? And this starts at a very, all the dogs, you know, whether you have a strong puller or not, they learn those behaviors at this very young critical age. All right, so I want to throw in one more so that you guys, I know we've been seeing a lot of Reaver, but I also want to show one of my current clients. This is her hound mix Daisy. Maybe I can make this a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. So this is Daisy and this is Erin, and they sent this to me earlier because I said, I need like video of a dog doing it in a store. It's Saturday, everybody's at the store, and Reaver can't focus because we're not there at the high distraction level just yet. So she came and she helped me with the project. So this is what we've been working on. She is currently using a high rate of reinforcement. Honestly, this team doesn't need to, but you can see how beautiful flow this is, right? They're still working on their turns, but the dog is going at that slower pace, staying focused on the handler. And of course, it's just about starting to fade out that food reinforcer as you go, right? And she's in a pretty good straight healing position. All right, so that's all that I have for you lovely people today. Do we have any questions? What kind of questions do you guys have for me? What do you guys think? Is this something that you would find interesting? Do you have further questions? What's going on for you guys? And I don't know why this is so blurry. Focus. Camera's not focusing. Okay. Anything for me? Farmer says, is the socialization outing similar to a decompression walk, less free maybe? I would say it's more structured than a decompression walk. Generally during like a decompression walk, I'm not asking my dog necessarily for eye contact because they're usually on a long line of some kind. They can feel free to go sniff anything. It's usually, you know, not in a public space, right? It's usually like in an open field. What was the name of the group? Yeah, so the name of the group is Service Dog Prep. The next workshop, it's actually going to be an 8-day workshop. I host them about every other month. And the next workshop is April. I believe it's the second week of April is what I currently have it planned for. Second or third week of April. So make sure to, if you're interested, join that group. Again, it's Service Dog Prep. If you're just in it for the training, that's cool. But I also do a lot of education for people in the US because there's a lot of misunderstandings, really misunderstandings of the law. And it's a way to help educate people, help them prepare for a service dog if they're a person that needs a service dog, or to even up level their current service dog training if they are currently struggling with anything there. So it's a very, very helpful group, and I'm more than happy to, of course, let you guys in. Just remember to answer all the group questions. If you don't, unfortunately, I will not be able to let you in. Okay? So with that being said, that's it. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much, Farmer. Thank you, Alexandria. Thank you, Danny. Nice to see you here. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Sandy, since you'll be rewatching. And I guess I will see you guys at some other point. Please enjoy the rest of the Virtual Dog Conference 2021. I myself have been watching quite a few of the speakers, which has been super interesting for me. And thank you guys so much. Hope you have a great night.